Hey folks, Monkey here. Let's talk about satellite phones for a minute. Head over to sat123.com and see the latest deals going. If you don't have one of these in your quiver, you're going to want to do that because there's a reason why the senators and the military and first responders are all getting these things added to their quiver. And it's because they are encrypted. It's a private comm situation. You can't be tracked wherever you're going. There are a lot of things. If the grid goes down, these things will still work. And so currently over at sat123.com, you can check out these Iridium phones. Here we go. The Iridium 9555 satellite phone. It is the best satellite phone ever made. In fact, I wish I had one of these phones. This thing is amazing. They have several plans going right now. You can get one phone for $99.95 a month. That's 100 minutes included. And the phone is also included. Plus, they sweeten the deal up even more. You get a $129 Garmin watch with that, which is pretty slick. And then if you want something for your family, they've got family plans as well. 2 Iridium 55 phones plus 2 Garmin watches. You get 200 shared minutes or text, $189.95 a month. That's a 24-month agreement. And then they have a bigger deal. Actually, it's 3 phones, $279.95 a month. 300 shared minutes or text. Those are 3 Iridium 9555 phones plus 3 Garmin watches. That is pretty slick. Now, if you're still interested in the other phones, you can get them, but they are on back order. It takes about 4 weeks to get, and they sold out pretty quickly. So this deal here, they've got 1,000 phones set aside for the Monkey Nation. So they won't last long. So make sure you jump on this if you're thinking about it. Again, sat123.com. That's sat123.com. Or you can call them at 941-955-1020 and tell them Monkey sent you. All right, that's going to be it. You guys have a great day. We'll see you soon. Monkey out. All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. It's going to be your SITREP coming to you live from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. It's about 11 a.m. Central Time, and it is 7/5/2023. And so without further ado, let's hop over here to our mini board. Of course, we always kick it off in Skyglass. If you would, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel out tremendously. And here we are. Let's see, what is our number today? We're sitting around 213 up. It looks quite busy, actually. Let me take away the little tags here for a second and give us kind of a better look. You can see some of that is going to be filtered into the Canadian side of the house, which is a little more active than what we normally see as well. But that's how we look right now in the United States. The West Coast is just waking up, starting to get populated here. So that number will go up for a little while, and then things will start to taper off over here on the East Coast later on in the afternoon. So, okay, now let's do this. We're going to, let me separate. I want to just see how many air refuelers are currently up. So we're going to, let's shred it by 767-200 Pegasus. And then we're going to go over here to the KC-135s, which are 19. So total 23. And you can see, got a couple up here in the Northwest. Looks like they're kind of headed out to this area. It's a little 2-ship. And then let's see. I've had reports of actually a 4-ship of air refuelers getting jiggy early this morning. But anyway, looks out over Texas, up the East Coast as always. Flashbang has come out of his bunker over the weekend and seen his shadow, evidently. And yeah, it looks like he's got about, I don't know. I don't know that. I started to go with something about a groundhog shadow thing, but it makes me cringe to think that he's got, another year and some change and still in there. So anyway, let's do this. I'm going to look at Europe real fast, and there we go. All right, so it looks a little busy over Italy in terms of air refuelers. That's actually U.S. military, both of those air refuelers, and then one looks to be landing up in the UK, and that is also U.S. military. All right. Okay, let's take a look at our watch list this morning and see what we've got up. Now, I will say that the survey flights is going to pretty much be the flavor of the hour right here. These 22 of them up. It looks like we've got a handful, about 5 Mil Intel balloons gathering data over the United States on us. And then we've got one, looks to be, that's that Brio. That's a Mil Intel. Notice that little doghouse on the bottom. That is also an intelligence aircraft. So they look to be getting very intelligently gathered today on us for some reason. Then we've got these. These are actually survey planes up in Canada. So there is also a SAM flight up there in the mix. Looks to be headed across the drink. So I think we've got somebody headed to China. And let's see what else we have. In fact, that may be Yellen, Janet Yellen headed to China, because I know she's headed that way. A little R-135 in its normal area near Moldova. The Mil Intel German balloons are also up, as always. And let's get over here to the Intel aircraft. We'll start it out down under. And just notice we got some stuff in Brisbane. It looks to be a transition. Again, Intel, Mil Intel aircraft. You can see some stuff going on over Romania. And then we get a little bit further north. Notice they are still looking very closely at Kaliningrad and along that Belarus border. And then again, there is some serious intelligence gathering going on over Jordan. So I don't know what's going on there, but I do know we've had recent troop deployments also headed over to that area from a U.S. perspective. And then just a couple items. We've got one down in the southern border of California, one headed up towards San Francisco from L.A., and then this one out over, looks to be West Virginia. Again, Intel gathering aircraft. All right, let's go over to surveys. Survey says we've got one up to the western side of Stockholm. We've got this one to the northeast side of Poznan, which is a U.S. military base. They continue to do stuff in that general area. And Netherlands, top to bottom there. Belgium looks to be very, very busy. Then we get down into Spain. You can see some stuff going on in Barcelona, a little bit. Over here in north in Portugal, and then near Lisbon as well. And then we've got this one out north of Tripoli again. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're looking at ships, and that is an actual survey bird. So ain't no telling. Man, that's good coffee. All right. And then this, Australia. Looks like we've got stuff going on in Brisbane again. Looks like these are transitioning. These moves seem to be just going from point A to point B. Same thing down towards Melbourne, a little transition. And then we get over here to Perth, and you can see the same thing, just kind of a racetrack kind of deal there. Now let's get over to the United States, and it is still quite busy. There are some longer transitions. Notice they are really getting some info over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That looks to be mid-cities. And then we get, let's see, we get up here to the Northeast, very active and busy. Florida is off the chains busy. And notice there north of Tampa, up to Jacksonville, down to Miami. We get over to this side. Little bump right there on the border, down near Brownsville, I think. And then we get Arizona, Tucson, towards California. Very, very active and busy. LA, San Francisco, Northern California, Oregon. I mean, look at that, south of Salem. And then up here southeast of Seattle. And then you've got some moves, it looks like, in British Columbia as well, over near Calgary. Don't see anything in Alaska. Maybe one little blip there. And that looks like it's pretty close to Harp. But that's the only one I'm seeing on that side of the house. It was very active the other day, so we may just be like in between. So maybe it'll pick back up, and we'll see if there's some more gathering up there in Alaska. But and then this right here, if get my screen to drag on over, but it looks like we've got some surveys starting out in Hawaii, which I'm not surprised. This is one area that I was expecting it. It looks to be over Hano. It's on Oahu. So if if you're in Hawaii, check it out. Looks like you got some activity going on in your neck of the woods now. All right. Let's get over here to the Ruskies and see what they've been up to. We've got some transitions going on. Now, that one from here, it looks like something that it probably isn't. It looks like they have flown out of St. Petersburg. We got a broken trace as they fly across the Baltic Sea into Kaliningrad here. And then we notice a lot of flights coming out of Moscow, some headed south towards the Caspian Sea, and then others headed out east towards the other opposite side of Russia, maybe even a broken flight there headed over to China. And then this one, I've got to pull the thread on this. This may be an AN-124. It also, I got a report that one of the aircraft is showing actually as a Taiwan aircraft that I had captured as Russian. For some reason, in one of the flight apps, it showed as Russian. That's why I grabbed it. But that, notice you got a transition from Taiwan up to Japan. Doesn't mean it's not Russian. Could very well be. And then we go down here to Australia, and we've got really nothing going on there. Okay. All right, let's get over here to the drones. The only drone I have up, this is it for the 3-day weekend, or I say last 3 days. I don't know why I keep wanting to think today is Monday, but it's not, it's Wednesday. But just to the western side of Benghazi, out over the water, and, that'll always end up in a news cycle. A couple of days or weeks from now, we'll hear about it. And then this is going to be R-135 action or activity. Notice that it is, again, around Kaliningrad. And then we've got this one taken off out of Okinawa, headed up looking very closely at North Korea. That's going to be your R-135. And then let's jump over here. That's all I've got for R-135s. Let's jump into the sub-hunters. And this is really light for, I guess, last 3 days, something there over the Baltic Sea. And then Jacksonville up to, looks like north of Virginia Beach, headed in maybe to D.C., and then this one up in the very far northeast side of the house. All right, let's get back over here to the mini board and get into the news of what's going on. Now, we've got a lot of interesting things happening out there. We saw a lot of reports, and we're going to talk further about this, going on in Ukraine relative to the nuclear power plant that, I think they're going to blast this thing. I really do. I don't know. Well, I have an idea who. We'll go into that here in a minute. All right, this is going to be Flashbang's schedule. You can see he came out of Camp David yesterday about 9:15 in the morning. And let's see. Oh, he was having a barbecue. All right, with active duty military families. Probably got himself a Coke and a smile. And that brings us to the next news cycle here piece. Check this one out. Now, this is important, and then we'll get to the Coke and a smile. China is in default on $1 trillion in debt to U.S. bondholders. That's a lot of money. Will the U.S. force repayment? Probably not, but wow, it's pretty crazy when you think about this. That is a lot of money. It says that the United States pays interest on approximately $850 billion in debt held by the People's Republic of China. China, however, is currently in default on its sovereign debt held by American bondholders. Probably give them a pass knowing who's in the White House. All right. Let's get our Coke and a smile on right here. Okay. Secret Service is basically saying that they have found somehow, some way, a Coke and a smile, investigating how cocaine got in the White House. I think we probably know, but, given what we have in the White House, the people coming and going, it may not be hunters, but they're saying that this happened, rumors from a day earlier, it was investigating an unknown item found inside the White House. Was described in radio traffic. That's how we got confirmation, because they said it over the radio. This came from the firefighter within the D.C. Department's hazardous materials team. As they said, we have a yellow bar, which basically means it was a test positive for cocaine hydrochloride. So let's kind of get into the details of this. And if you don't know what I didn't, I had to actually look this stuff up because this is not in my wheelhousing, okay? But it comes in three forms. If you're wondering what cocaine comes like, It's hydrochloride, freebase, and crack. So it looks like it was the powder form, usually white powder mixed or cut with other substances. And then freebase is a white powder, and crack cocaine, generally found in the form of large crystals. And then freebase and crack is usually smoked. And that's what it looks like. Maybe Hunter is transitioning off of the hard stuff onto the powder, maybe. Or maybe I say Hunter. It may not be him. It could be anybody. It depends on where it is. But let's tell who it is not. First of all, these are the names it goes by. Yeah, C, some coke, crack, nose candy, snow, white lady, toot. I didn't know that. Charlie, I didn't know that either. Blow, white dust, stardust, and I think I've heard the term bump every once in a while on that one too. So, okay, now this is people who use cocaine get a rush, making them feel happy, confident, and alert. But this is how we know it's not flashbang, okay? First, feeling excited and energetic. Okay, feeling numb. Well, that could put him on there. Having a higher sex drive, taking risks, and moving more quickly than usual. So it doesn't look to be, that would rule Biden out right there. And yeah, if it was like dazed and confused, doesn't know where he is, not sure if he has pants on, then it would probably, I'd say, well, this is probably our suspect. But anyway, all right, let's move off of this. Let's get over to the real news. But it just goes to show you the fact that, you just can't make this stuff up. It's absolutely hideous what's going on with our government, the corruption, etc. And speaking of that, here we go. Ukraine preparing for a nuclear explosion as Russia reduces, and I'm not going to try to pronounce that plant other than Zapor presence. This is a nuclear plant. Inside, we've been talking about it, where they blew the dam, and it actually caused the water levels to drop that were providing, I guess, cooling water into the cooling tower of the nuclear power plant, causing it to basically, well, it could potentially cause it to overheat. So you'd have to shut it down, etc. This plant has been offline for, I think, about a month. And they were saying that it recently was turned back on. At least that's the reports that I was getting. But the interesting thing is that they're saying that this is a serious threat because if you were to have a large explosion at that power plant station, it would cause radiation release. All right. And let's talk a little bit more about that. But this, that's not really what happened there. Let's just go over here. Okay. So over the weekend, I keep thinking it's the weekend, over the holiday, Ukraine, President Zelensky basically says he's calling for NATO security guarantees. This is a setup. Remember, this guy was put into place in 2016 after the U.S. government assisted in overthrow and ousting of a pro-Russian president in Ukraine. And they put this actor in who is now filling the role. Any guesses on which side he works for or who he works for? Probably our agency, if I had to guess. But Putin, he's basically saying that Putin is rigging nuclear power plant with explosives, sparking meltdowns. Now, yesterday there was a report that that the Russians were seen putting explosives on the roof of the nuclear power plant. That's not a way you basically demolish anything. It would be kind of stupid. I mean, you put it at the base and it causes everything to come down. It just, putting it on the roof is just kind of stupid. So that one right there, you want to look for your red flags in a story, shooting holes in this thing, and that's one of the first red flags. Okay, now Russia and Ukraine both are accusing each other of plotting an imminent attack on a nuclear plant. Yeah, this thing stinks to high heaven. There's definitely something amiss here. Now let's talk a little bit about motives. Why would somebody want to do this? Okay, if you go over here, this is an article that was actually put out in August of 2022. If an accident were to occur at the Zapor nuclear power plant right now, the radiation would cover part of Russia. And this is the location, right? They blew the dams downstream here. This is what's bringing the water in this area to a lower level. But this is where the radiation would actually leak. Now, this is why I think it would be the U.S. behind it, okay? And here's why I'm going to say that, okay? I'll give you some, throw this out there, all right? This is Russia, Crimea. This is a stronghold military base. If you were to have a leak, would you blow a plant up here that does nothing to affect Ukraine, but it only affects your own country? That right there tells you that Russia is more than likely not behind it. That would be stupid, okay? Because the jet stream and everything it blows, as you know, west to east. So it's going to carry any kind of radioactive active material or debris out over his own country. So it would be really stupid for him to do that. Now, what else would it do? Well, if this is your border where you're fighting, it would basically kill everybody that's in the fighting zone. So you would take all the Ukrainian soldiers that are fighting, you bring them back out to the west, and then you would, basically scuttle the boat, killing all the Russians. So this, like I said, I don't see Putin doing this. It just would not make any sense logically for him to do something like that, okay? So keep your eye on this, because if this does occur and this takes place and you start to leak like Chernobyl, where you have this radioactive fallout into Russia and it kills all these Russians, you can bet your bottom dollar that Russia will retaliate, because that is in essence a nuclear dirty bomb deployed into their country. So very, very likely that Putin would actually strike from this, okay? So that's why this is very crucial, why we need to watch it, because if our deep state decides to take this thing out and do this, it's probably going to kick this thing off pretty quickly. The other thing that we need to keep in mind, there is a lot of talk about Ukraine just becoming part of NATO, that they're going to bypass this system that ensures that they are ethically sound and basically bring them in. If they do that, because of Title V or Article 5, in NATO, it basically says, hey, if you attack one of us, you attack all of us. If you bring Ukraine into the fold, you immediately declare war. It's the only thing you have, which means that the European countries will engage into this situation rapidly. So let's see what happens. Keep your ear to the ground on this, because this, as well as Ukraine becoming part of NATO, that's going to kick it all off. All right. Okay. Now let's get over to this side. This is going to be your NOTAMs. Notice we've got some stuff going on up here in Alaska. We've got fire boxes all over Canada. And then let me zoom in a little closer. I backed out because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything that was way to our north that we see from time to time. And it looks like our box is returned down south of California. Lots and lots of things going on here across the country. Remember, we're entering the exercise time frame for U.S. military to do things here in the United States, right? Things like Jade Helm, etc. So just keep an eye on it. But this is the season, okay? All right. Notice we've got some large TFR boxes going here. All right. We'll come back to that here in just 1 second. Let me get over to Europe and see if we've got anything new. I'm not seeing anything new, other than it looks like the Russians have some exercise or operations going on up there in their neck of the woods. All right. Okay, let's look closer at the TFR map. These fireboxes you see on here, these are 10,000 acres and up. They're big, big, large fires, all right? There's a lot more fires going on out there, but these are the large ones happening. Canada is just covered up, okay? These red dots, yellow dots, orange dots that you see scattered throughout, these are hot spots. So they could be smaller fires or something, okay? All right, TFRs, as it stands, you've got Flashbang, looks like he's headed into South Carolina. Let's see what the date is on this as we transition over. And July 6th, so tomorrow he's headed to South Carolina. Looks like he's headed out to his home over the weekend, or coming up on the weekend. That's these other large, very large boxes. And yep, and then that's your senior living center right there in the red zone, brown zone, sorry. Okay, back away. Let's get over to the next aspect of this, which is going to be this one. So the MiG, we had actually a MiG-31 crash off the coast of Alaska. This happened on the 3rd of July. They're saying that these aircraft were actually patrolling in international waters when one of them went down. So just a heads up. It said NORAD tracked it because they were already watching them come into the airspace. All right. Now, that's one of the things that we can't. This is, I guess, a picture of MiG-31s, what they look like. We can't track those on our trackers because they're fighters. They don't really, you very rarely do you see fighters. Okay. All right. Now, this is interesting. Russia is jamming, which is reducing accuracy of U.S. guided weapons in Ukraine. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically, I'll just give you a general description. But what they do is, this would be the jam on the radar, all right? And it's basically an electronic jam, okay? And not that one. I just thought I'd throw little space balls in there for you. But yeah, this was just electronic jamming system. You know, they have them all over probably stages. It's much like when you're trying to fly a drone into a certain area and they've got those areas, you know, locked down. So your drone will basically lose contact, especially near military bases, things like that. It's just an electronic form of jamming, which makes it very difficult for them to deploy weapons with accuracy. All right. Now, if you're dropping a 2,000 pounder, you don't have to be super accurate. It's kind of like horseshoes and hand grenades. You just got to be in the zone, right? Okay. All right, let's move on over here to this side of it. Israel conducts the largest military incursion of the West Bank since 2002. So saying around 3,000 Palestinians were forced to leave Jenin refugee camp overnight on Tuesday as the Israeli army pushed ahead with the second day of the largest military invasion into the occupied West Bank, or as we call it, ancient Samaria. So we'll just keep our eye on this. But yeah, the place has gone hot. Now, check this out. This is a map I found very interesting. Somebody sent this to me over the holiday. And you can actually go to it. It's called FDD, so foxtrotdeltadelta.org. And it'll basically pull up this map. And this is all since March of 2022. So it's about a year's worth of data. But just goes to show you the hot, like all the hot zones within this general area. All the things that have been happening, shootings, stabbings. There's a lot of stuff going on, right? If we zoom in on this, rock throwing, they pretty much capture it all. Any incident that's been going on in the general area. Notice you get out here near Tel Aviv and stuff, you've got things that happened as well, right? So you kind of expect it over here in this general area, but when you start to get over here near Tel Aviv and to Jerusalem, it's you just don't see it that often. It does happen, but this just goes to show you that that area is still very, very active over the last year. That's a lot of things going on. A lot of things going on, all right? Okay. Anyway, again, that's fdd.org if you want to go over there and play around with it a little bit. But it gives you all the stats. It's pretty interesting data. Okay, let's get into Biggs Army Airfield, start looking at what's moving out there, where they're headed. Looks like we got a national cargo coming inbound from Baltimore, Washington, Eastern Airlines from El Paso. That's a 777. And that is actually just transitioning. Remember, Biggs Army Airfield and El Paso International they're basically, the runways are right beside each other. So you have to actually take off because you can't just taxi across, all right? And they have to take off and then come back in and land. So anyway, that's where that's coming from. It just basically, popped up, popped back down. And then we'll look to see where it is on the board. Looks like we got an Atlas Air 767-300 headed to Norfolk and nothing else on the board. So these two aircraft, NCR and Eastern Airlines, remain on ground at Biggs. We'll see in the next SITREP if we see where they have taken off to. Okay, now this is going to be Dover, Delaware. And looks like we got an Atlas Air coming in from Ramstein, America, 76. I don't know what that is. Doesn't have anything. But that's a pretty nice little name there. Okay, Atlas are coming in from Chicago O'Hare. These are both 747s, very large aircraft. And then this one looks to be headed to England. The first Atlas Air headed over to England. And don't have anything else on there. So we're still waiting. The second Atlas Air is not showing on the board yet, so it's probably being loaded as we speak, okay? All right, we get over here to Ramstein. And we got an Atlas Air coming in from Baltimore. We just looked at that. And let's see, camber flight. So that one looks to be, well, no, I take that back. There's another 747-400 headed to Kuwait from Ramstein. And then we've got this one, Atlas Air 747 headed back to Dover. And that's actually what we were looking at, not the Baltimore, Washington. So that's a separate one coming in. And then we have this, I call it Husky 160. That's probably a C-130. Looks to be headed, let's see, to Iceland. Okay. Right. Let's bump on over. This is RZE, Forward Operating Base in Poland. Again, this is Ukraine. This is Poland. This is your Forward Operating Base, RZE. And let's see what we had. Now, the other day we saw a little bit of an uptick, but it was nothing significant. It has been very, very slow there. This one coming out of Wiesbaden Army Airfield, that's going to be Duke 28. It's a little BE-20, probably a base commander or somebody that's got, got the dot for all of this in Europe, okay? All right, let me go down the line here and see if I got anything that catches my eye. I got nothing on the board. And let's go over to this side. Anything outbound? Not catching my eye. So, yeah, very, very quiet. Very quiet in the Forward Operating Base. Here's your only two camber flights that are up. One from Ramstein to Kuwait. We just talked about that. And then another one looks to be coming out of Kuwait, 777, headed to destination unknown. But given the fact that this is the only other dot, it looks like we got a rotation going with these two aircraft in and out of Kuwait. Now, Western Global. Looks like they are still continuing to take assets out of Asia, bring them in to the U.S. and then over to Europe. This could be, there's no telling what that could be. But this one here looks to be headed to Chicago from, let me just make sure I get this. Let's just call it Tokyo. All right, Huntsville to Seoul, Korea. And then this one coming out of Tokyo to Chicago, Anchorage to Los Angeles. Again, we're seeing a lot of this Anchorage, Los Angeles thing going here. So they seem to be staging stuff in LAX. All right, Omni, Manchester to Toronto. Looks like they've got a Canadian contract going. They're continuing to move troops back and forth between the two. And then we've got one down in Australia, down under. It's coming out of Darwin, the Northern Territory, up to Guam, or over to Guam, right? So that's going to be this one here, headed into Guam. This is a big staging location, too, out in the Asian Pacific. So, but it's also a training location. So they could be bringing some folks in to do some training in Guam. We'll get over here to NATO, and we've only got one MMF 64 up, headed out of Cologne. Let me back it up and see if we catch it. Yeah, it looks to be descending. It's at 4,100 feet, 291 in terms of airspeed. So it looks to be on final, but again, destination unknown. And then let's go over here to the Brits, see what they have on the board. 3 flights. So coming out of Orland Main Air Station, another one out of Waddington, and this one here. Let me back it up. That could be, let me get over here onto this side of it. Yeah, it looks like that one's coming out of Cyprus, and this one's headed back to home base operations. All right, let's take a look at the Swift Airs and see what these guys are up to today. This looks like we've got one coming out of Ontario, California to Greensboro. That is probably moving folks. It's, I'm just guessing here, Amazon, okay? And then this other one, March Air Force Base, Amazon, because they do have a little hub there at March, headed into Robert Gray. So that one's going to Fort Hood, all right? Okay, listen, that's going to do it for our SITREP today. Again, we're going to keep eyes on this thing going on with the nuclear power plant in Ukraine and see what shakes loose. But there is a lot of chatter happening around that. Nothing would surprise me more than to see them blow that before maybe a major attack in other areas. I don't know, but I'm just putting that out there. So we'll keep our eye on that. In the meantime, we'll be back Friday for our live show. So if you would just, again, hit that like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you soon. Stay frosty. Keep that powder dry. God bless. Monkey out. Thanks for watching, folks. Check out the latest gear and products over at monkeywerxus.com.